I had to unmute I unmuted the wrong thing. Sorry. Hello, welcome back to another week of predicting Tranquility. My name is Nerf. I am your host tonight, and today we are joined by Magpolar and yes, iPad Seraph. How's it going, guys?
Not too
It's going
bad.
good.
Yeah, the chat was going crazy over iPad Seraph, and they still are. But tonight we are covering all 81 matches. Wait, is that how many it is? That can't be right. 41 matches, 82 teams. Sorry. We're going to go a little bit in depth with all of them. And just quickly to preface before we go in, there is a form that you can do your predictions on. I post that every week in the hashtag live content discussion chat. Go do those. We only get about like 20 maybe a week. But we get like 30 viewers on this, so it takes like 5 minutes. Go ahead and get your predictions out there. There's no like reward yet. We've thought about doing something in the past, but you know, maybe at the end of the season that will change. So just a little incentive. The way that it works is you get 1 point for each correctly predicted match and 3 for each predicted score. So if it was a 4-0 and you predicted 3-1, you get 1 point. If you predicted 4-0, you get 3. Um, so let's just go straight into it. Polar, we can start with Harmony EU. Oop, that's wrong. That is also wrong.
So,
Sorry, sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong things. All right, you're good, you're good.
alright. So starting with Harmony EU, our first game is the Dino Nuggies against Acer, and we all predicted 4-0. Dino Nuggies just very dominant start to the season. Acer a little bit rocky. I think this should be a pretty solid win for the Dino Nuggies. Second game is going to be EG Dragneel taking on Celsius 522. And a bit of a mixed score here. All going to map 5. Me and Seraph going 3-2 in favor of Dragneel, where Nerfed has 3-2 in favor of Celsius. Third match is the Hope Guardians versus Hivemind. Again, Hope Guardians looking really strong out the gate. I'm looking like one of the top teams in the tier, and we all have 3-1 wins over Hivemind. And then Brig Divers have a tough opponent, TBD. I think TBD just needs a couple more weeks, a couple more scrims, and they're on the table. But right now, I think Brig Divers are again looking pretty good.
Yeah, Teammate are definitely the favorites in Harmony EU, at least the fan favorite. Same with kind of similar to Team 24 and Team 23 over in over the pond.
Solid
Um,
pick.
yeah, I mean, you can never count them out. You know, we've yet to see them play, so they
Once Overwatch 2 comes out.
yeah. And once Overwatch
Mm.
2 comes out, that's their season. I do want to go back though to kind of look at the Celsius versus Dragneel match. I think that this is one that honestly, if I were to do the prediction now, I did my preds before the Dragneel match. I would maybe swing the other way, but I think this is just a match between two very close teams. I think Dragneel and Celsius are kind of like towards the upper middle of Harmony EU, and I think that this is going to be a very fun match. I think all of us having map fives for this one is definitely the right way to go. But yeah. Looking over though to Harmony Orem A in on the NA side of things, there's only one match. It's Geometric versus Kusanagi, the two undefeated teams who have looked very solid so far this season. Me and Polar have them going to 5, both Geometric winning. Seraph only has Kusanagi taking one map. And then the other two matches are forfeits, so Chinchillas and Big Bang will get a 4-0 bye this week. Something I did last week though was I talked about we all went in the direction of geometric for this match. But I don't think it's fair to count Kusanagi out, and we all definitely have them putting up a fight at least. So one of you two kind of like sell me on Kusanagi. What do they have to do to win this match?
It's all in the hustle. That's what they need to
Yeah.
have. Two people going to map 5, like especially in a Harmony tier where these games can get pretty scrappy by map 5. We're probably going to see a brawl mirror from any team in the tier in map 5. It just comes down to who wants it more.
Yeah. going off of Polar, a lot of it just comes down to determination and the mental game at some points, especially with
Definitely.
two even teams.
Yeah, I mean these are two teams that I mean we've both seen them reverse sweep, so definitely like two teams where the mental is strong. And I think yeah, that's definitely a fair assumption that it's going to be a mental battle for who ends up taking that final map if it does go to a 4 or 5. Um, but yeah. All right. Now, Seraph, let's talk about the Harmony Orem B matches.
Oh yeah, for sure. Going into some actual matches here and not just forfeits. Uh, we're gonna have our first match in R&B being Chicago Mafia versus Galactic Penguins, with Nerf Deny predicting a 4-0 with Polar bringing up a 3-2 score, and then Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies versus Fighting Potatoes, with Nerf and Polar going 3-1. Me, I'm simping for the Potatoes 3-1, and then our final matchup be Strix versus Millivat, with all of us giving the win to Strix, but Polar giving the 3-2 to Millivat.
Yeah. Polar. I'm kind of curious what your thought process was behind this the Mafia versus the Penguins match. Because I mean these
Massive
are
fan
Yeah.
of the Mafia. We got
okay.
top prospects like
Yeah.
Mr. Mountain Mike.
That's
Like
true.
they're coming in with a couple big clutch wins. Like Geometric,
Yeah.
obviously on paper could be the better team, but the momentum is just building behind Mafia. This is a Hail Mary shot, but I think they can pull through for a
Yeah.
true storyline.
Yeah. If they do land this haymaker, it could really solidify them
Yeah, it definitely
into a
could.
upper bracket run.
I mean, hey, you kind of gotta go for the upset picks to move your way up in the standings. You know,
Yeah.
you're not gonna win by always picking the obvious match. So props for that. The other match I kind of wanted to look at was Sarah. If you have the potatoes winning, you said you're a simp. Is there anything else behind that pick, or is it just you know you love the
Um,
potatoes?
I'm a fan of the potatoes, and I think they could. They've been together a long time. I love the team has, and I think this could be their season. They could get something done this season. I believe.
Yeah, and I mean you can kind of say the opposite about Fire Breathing Rubber Duckies, where like they're a new team. None of these players have played together in the past. Kind of scraps and remnants here and there from different teams from last season. So yeah, I could definitely see the kind of core synergy beating the newcomers. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, moving on to Indigo A. Magpolar, what do we have?
First match is going to be Insidious versus oh 07 Titanium. All of us giving Insidious the win, myself making it a map 5 again, just loving these map 5s. Um, Next game we have Ragnarok Freya versus Quell Kings. Everyone giving Quell Kings the win, with myself giving Freya the map. Our next match will be Chrysalis versus. Am I going too many games?
No, you're good. Yeah, yeah.
Chrysalis versus Clairvoyance, with again all of us having the same winner of Clairvoyance, but Chrysalis going to map 5 for Nerfed, and Seraph giving them a map.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty adamant about how I think every team that isn't Koala Kings could take any match to 5. But I think as of last week, we kind of saw the teams solidify themselves a little bit more. I am very much interested in this Chrysalis versus Clairvoyance match. I think those teams are pretty close. But I think the rest of the tier or the rest of the pool, sorry, has kind of figured itself out as to where these teams might stand. Something I did want to kind of address. Now that we actually have the graphics up and stuff for predictions and whatever, I did want to talk about the Koala Kings. Last week, by far, the most correctly predicted match was Koala Kings versus Chrysalis. Every single person got 3 points for that match, except for one, who still got 1 point. They got the correct winner, just not the correct score. So yeah, I think the Koala Kings are a very predictable team in this pool. A lot of people kind of see them as the favorites, and even honestly, a lot of people don't even see them dropping the map. So, you know,
It's it'll definitely be a slugging fest between, I believe, Koala Kings and Flashbacks for top.
yeah, definitely. Come stage two, I think that's going to be a match of the juggernauts, and I'm excited to see it. But moving over to Harmony Indigo B, our first match is Narwhal Connex versus Obfuscation. I went with a 4-1 in favor of Narwhal, and the other two hosts went with Obfuscation, taking one map. The second match is Fahrenheit 972 versus Ace High. All of us have Fahrenheit putting up a fight. However, in the end, Ace High takes it. And the final match was Flashback Sweep. 4-0s in all of those matches. Kind of two teams I think on opposite sides of the spectrum, where you kind of see like Flashbacks still the favorites, even though they've had some struggles early on. I think last week they kind of showed that they've worked through those. And 3.5, they found their footing a little bit in a win against Obfuscation last week, but I don't think that's nearly enough to put them over Flashbacks right now.
Yeah. And besides, if I don't simp for a nostalgia uncut, so.
Oh, okay. Capital made some threats, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move it over back across the pond to EU Discord. Seraph, take it away.
All right, and going with the upper level EU tier, our first game's gonna be Berserk versus Dragon Aura. All of us giving the win to Dragon's Aura, with myself giving another map to Berserk. Our second game is going to be Mythical Kitsune versus Feeders United, with all of us getting the win to Feeders United, with Nerf giving the whole series to Feeders United. And then our third match will be Cam versus Pay to Win, with all of us except Polar giving a win to Pay to Win. Polar 3-1 for Cam. And then Deathwatch versus Feeders United, where pretty mixed bag. Nerf has Deathwatch winning, and me and Polar have Feeders divided.
Yeah, I kind of after last week, the Feeders Bowl, I kind of I don't know. I lost a little bit of faith, I guess you could say, in Feeders divided. I mean, Feeders United have swept everybody so far, so not exactly the worst outcome. But I think Deathwatcher is still a very strong team, and I'm happy to give them the win, in this match. Moving back over. Oh, do you have something? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that it definitely seems though that I think the Feeders org is pretty much the top in EU at the moment.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think this is going to be another one of those matches that kind of solidifies like the upper echelon. See who's like second or third. Because honestly, I think these are the two teams that are fighting for that namesake. But yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Moving up though to NA Orem A for Discord. Um, Polar, right? Yeah,
First,
Polar.
first match is gonna be Monarch versus Cosmic Castaways. Just a slugfest both sides, with Nerf and Seraph saying 4-0 for Castaways, myself saying 4-0 for Monarch. Our next game is gonna be Ragnarok Loki versus Deep Dish. Another looks like a great game for me and Seraph, going for Loki with close wins, and Nerf going for Deep Dish with a 3-1 win. And last match will be Galactic Gibbons versus Hammerhead. All of us having the same score of 3-1 for the Gibbons.
I'm not even gonna address the situation we have in that top row. But I do want to talk about what you guys thoughts on this Loki versus Deep Dish match. Because I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
for sure.
yeah, Deep Dish,
definitely.
like, oh, you go.
Oh no, yeah. I was just gonna say that I think Loki might be looking like the underdogs coming into this, but I think they have a really good chance to get a win against a team that many people consider to be a top in Discord, and that would really help them.
Yeah, it's gonna be a clash of styles as well, with
Yeah.
each team playing different comps, and it'll be a great match. I said it's gonna be a map 5. Deep Dish could for sure take this away.
Yeah.
But Loki just looking really strong, like team play wise, and kind of understanding how to play around each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I think for me, Deep Dish are kind of just. I think they are, without a doubt, a top three team. Honestly, um, that was the one complaint I had with the Discord top eight was I would have put Deep Dish up at third or second, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
I think Loki are a very good team, and I think, I mean, what we saw Deep Dish sweep Gibbons, we saw them handle Hammerhead pretty easily. If anyone's gonna take the series against Deep Dish, it's gonna be Loki. So we'll have to wait and see how this match goes. Very excited for it.
Because this could definitely define who's in the middle and who's in the lower upper tier for sure.
that's true as well. I think another factor that kind of goes into this is Dietrich have made some roster changes. They picked up Null this week, which is I think a pretty that's some added firepower to the DPS line. That's never something that you'll turn your nose up at.
Yeah,
Um, and
tough to
I
predict
think
that player.
I think they've made some other changes. I'm not too sure what they are, but they made some changes, and I think that they're a team that's looking solid. Moving over to Orem B. The first match we have is Thunder Duckies versus Reminiscence. All of us going in favor of Reminiscence for this one. However, Seraph has a sweep, and me and Polar have 3-1 in favor of Rem. Our second match is Adelaide Eclipse versus Poseidon. Me and Seraph went for a 4-0 in favor of Adelaide. However, Polar has them going to 5. And the final match is not even a match. It's MI7 getting a bye this week. And I feel like we say that too much. It's unfortunate, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Um,
No, Bowler, why are you making this a map 5 series for
yeah, that
Adelaide
that was
versus
my
Poseidon?
question. He's got nothing.
Not too much here. I mean, not too much here. Not gonna lie.
All right. That happens sometimes. So.
And I'm not biased with a nostalgia work team, so.
Oh, definitely not. No. I
Yeah.
mean, we all have it here, so is it really bias? But yeah. Let's move over to Indigo A, however. Seraph, what do we have here?
All right, so for Indigo A, our first matchup is going to be Redacted versus Joey Esports, with all of us giving a 3-1 win to Joey Esports. Our second matchup is going to be Vampires versus SEAL Team Spuds, with, again, another 3-1 win for SEAL Team Spuds. And then Nemesis versus Space Created, with all of us getting the win to Space Created, but 3-1 for Nerfed, 3-2 for Polar, and 4-0 for me.
Kind of another match, similar to the oh shoot, I don't even remember the one match that I talked about where it's like, oh, sell me on the other team. Um, I want you guys to kind of sell me here on Vampires, because I think Spuds took a little bit of a stumble last week, and I think they're vulnerable right now. If there was ever a time the Vampires would be able to beat them, I think it'd be now. Um, Especially coming off of a win, they have the upward momentum, and Spuds have the downward momentum. So what does it take for Vampires to win this match?
I'll actually kind of say a counterpoint to the Spuds falling. I think with the coaching staff Spuds have of somebody like Smugs being able to lead that team, I really see them, taking a tough game last week, but being able to bounce back and maybe even stronger than they were before.
Okay.
Yeah. No, if Vampires can keep themselves calm, they know what to do, play their game, I think that they could go up against Spuds, any team. They know what to work on, and I think they can really exploit any weaknesses Spuds may have. But I definitely do agree with Polar that they do have some very strong coaches, as well as strong players on Spuds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this one seems a lot more obvious on paper. I mean, so Spuds we consider to be a very, very solid team. Vampires, they got their first win last week, so they're on the rise, but definitely not a team that you would expect to beat Spuds. But I think this is a sleeper match. I think that this could very much go the other way and upset a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, if they keep that momentum going upwards, it will be a very big shakeup in the pool.
Yeah, definitely. Moving though over to Indigo B. Polar, take it away.
We have our final pool in Discord with first match being Avalon versus Adrenalines. Map 5 Polar once again with Avalon winning, but with 4-0s with Nerfed and Seraph.
You seem to go for that a lot. Where we're all sweeps, and then you go for the full series.
Yeah.
Well, follow me some Map 5 Overwatch.
No, I love it. Yeah.
Next game, we all actually here have the same score of Hades and Doodles, with all of us having Doodles taking the win 3-1. With the last match being F214 versus Reckless Obsidian. A couple mixed matches here. We have Nerf saying 3-1 F214, myself saying 3-2 Obsidian, and Seraph saying 3-2 F214.
This is another one that I think could be kind of close. The Fahrenheit versus Upsilon match. Um, I think there are two teams that are in very similar spots. And definitely kind of, I think they're both 0-3 right now, so both definitely trying to
Yeah.
fight for that first win. I
Those,
think on paper I just like the Fahrenheit roster more, which is why I ended up going for them
yeah.
over Upsilon.
I I think that both teams have an equal shot at doing it. I agree with you. I like the Fahrenheit roster a bit more, but it's really just going to come down to who wants to improve the most, who wants to get that first win the most. Who's the hungriest for it.
Yeah. I mean, despite being 0-3, it's still too early to
Like,
count either of these teams out. Both
no,
all
it's
even though they're on trajectory to get Elim Pool, like they both definitely have a fight to put up before they're there. So,
yeah. There's always a chance to improve and come back.
yeah. And I think that's what we just got to see this match is who's going to fight for it more. Um
Mm.
yeah, so pretty exciting. But let's move over to Trans tier. For Aurum, our first match is the Sydney Sunsets versus Death Cards. All of us in favor of Sunsets here with a 3-1 win. Our second match is the Guangzhou Gangsters versus 413 Catalyst. Everybody went with a sweep, which, I mean, Gangsters, they haven't dropped a map yet. Last season's champions. Kind of hard to give them a map when they have that kind of record about them. And then the final match, again, a non-match where Billings Boomers will get a 4-0 forfeit this week.
I actually want to talk a bit about the Death Cards game.
Okay.
I think Death Cards could easily win this as well. I think they're for sure one of the, if we're looking at pure on paper firepower, one of the best teams in the tier. It's just about making it work together, like being a team and trying to figure out and work around each other instead. But I think like if this team finds the rhythm, they could easily shoot up to being one of the best teams in the tier.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprise to me. I mean, I saw this roster and I'm like, holy, they're like looking really good. I kind of thought they were gonna be like maybe a top 5, top 6 team in trans tier. And they're in a bit of a tough pool. I think every single one of the teams in this pool is a pretty solid team, but they've had a rough start to things. I don't think that they'll have as rough of a finish. I think their roster is just too talented for them to be like an Elim pool team. Like I think it's just a matter of their strength of schedule so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving over to Azure though. What do we have here?
All right, so our first matchup in the Azure bracket will be Classified versus Krabby Crabbers, with both me and Nerfed giving a 3-1, 3-2 win, and with Polar giving a 4-0 to Crabbers. And then we'll have Decapitators versus Culture, with both me and Nerfed giving a 4-0, but with Polar handing out a 4-0 for Culture. And then finally, it'll be the Palm Beach Poggers versus Reckless Sigma, with all of us pretty much agreeing that Sigma will win, but Nerf believing it's going to go to a map 5.
Yeah, I think Poggers have just kind of they've put up a fight in every single one of their matches, so I'm not ready to count them out yet. Even if they are 0-3. Polar though, going a little bit against the grain here. What was your thought process for the Crabbers versus Classified?
As a member of the Crab Nation, it's the most underrated teams in the tier, or overrated, depending who you ask. But like somebody like Fine on the DPS, like incredibly smart at the game, very good at the role. Like this 4-0 might be a little bit, the Crab Nation might be coming out of me a bit too much here, but they're definitely a strong team for sure.
And I also asked too, you seem very cultured, giving a 4 out of culture. What's up with that?
I think this is where the egos get to Decapitators. I think, maybe losing a couple fights in the first map could definitely just spiral out of control. Um, Culture again, Jack on the DPS line, just been grinding the game. You know, big props to him. Could definitely just run away with this as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good. This is the game where we're gonna see Decapiteer's mental shatter.
Yeah, decaps are
Easily
known
could
for
be
throwing big matches, isn't that right, Polar?
for sure.
Yeah. Let's move it over to our final pool, which is the Transcendence Indigo tier. Um, before we start, before we go into these matches, I would just like to, I talked about the most correctly predicted match, which was the Koala Kings versus Chrysalis. The worst match by far was the Arctic Foxes versus Devil Dukes. Not a single person got it right, and it was not close. I think the closest score was like somebody gave them a map. Somebody gave the Foxes a map. Um, so yeah, big upset here. Um,
Oh, yeah.
take it away though.
The first match being Frostfisher versus Arctic Foxes, the ice battle, I guess you could say. Um, Me and Seraph, actually, wait, just me saying Frostfisher taking the 3-1 win over the Arctic Foxes, with Nerfed and Seraph saying other way around, with Arctic Foxes taking the win. Our second match is Lijiang Legion versus Amnesia, with me and Nerf saying 3-1 for Amnesia, with Seraph bias coming through once again and saying 4-0 for Amnesia. And then Oath vs Devil Dukes. My opinion, the biggest match of Transcendence tier, with Nerfed saying 3-0 for Devil Dukes, Seraph saying 3-1 for Devil Dukes, and I think the land buff's just coming through for this one. And Oath taking a map 5 over the, mental might be a little off for Devil Dukes. Tough loss last week, and Oath are just, they're coming in picking up the scraps, just grinding away, like sitting on land. First couple maps maybe go both ways. Map 5, the land crowd starts cheering. The crowd's behind
Honestly,
him. It's the series could be a wrap right there
honestly, never underestimate the Okies.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely not.
I'm
Um,
Oklahoma born.
so I mean, you gave your opinion on that, which I was gonna ask you. We don't have to talk about Seraph giving the sweep to the Amnesia, because he was paid off. But Seraph, let's talk a little bit about Oath versus Devil Dukes because we got Polar's opinion. But do we think that like how do I phrase this question? How easily do we think Devil Dukes bounce back? Because it was I mean 0 points given for for their match last week. Definitely a very very big upset. Do we think that they immediately bounce back, or do you think that they're gonna need a week? I mean, this is obviously like the opponent to do it with. But
Yeah, it's really gonna depend on how much how much work was put in. Did they identify what went wrong during their matches, or do they need to work more on whatever comps specifically they want to run?
yeah,
Because I think that if they aren't ready and haven't really done their homework, then both could, in fact, take the game, like Polar predicted. But I think that I think Devil Dukes may get this one.
hmm yeah. I mean, Oath definitely. Like Polar said, they do have the land buff. Do they really
Yeah.
get the land buff if the other team isn't on land as well? Does that
It's
really count?
yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
a
Okay.
large land, massive land buff.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just, you would assume that like the other team would have to be there for like the ping and everything to like balance out, but I mean, yeah, I think the
It's
crowd
it's not the ping,
the
it's the
crowd
crowd.
is the more impactful part, yeah. Which honestly like I'm phrasing that like it's sarcastic, but that's honestly probably true. So,
Yeah.
um before we go into our top fives for this week, Polar and Seraph, are there any like matches you kind of that like we glossed over maybe that you would like to talk about a little bit more? Any like anything you want to just like quickly say about any of the matches we talked about?
Not for me. What do you think, Bowler?
Not really for me either. I think we talked about each match I want to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. So then, let's get into the top fives. So for week three, um, you know, that Arctic match was rough, but so were some of the others. So scores were a little bit lower this week. Coming in at fifth place, we have Keysmon Swag from Space Created with 59 points. In fourth place, we have Bowsy at 60. In third place, we have Capital with 61, falling a little bit from the glory of first place, which, this is the first time all season that he has not been in first place. But, it was still close, because tied for first, we have Genji Main from the Spuds and Bernie from the Penguins, both at 62. So, Capital falling a little bit, but just by 1 point. So, once we get to the overall, likely not to have that much of an impact. Unfortunately, Apathy was about a minute late with his predictions, so he is falling out and giving that spot to Bernie at 179 for 5th place. In 4th place, we have Bowsy at 180. In 3rd place, PDK with 187. 2nd place is Mr. Yeti with 191. And, yep, he's untouchable, Capital at 206. That top 3 in general just has not changed at all. And if I'm being honest, I don't see it changing. Because those 3 are just consistently up there, even though PDK and Capital, or not Capital, PDK and Yeti weren't in the top 3 or the top 5 this week. They were, I think, 5th and 6th. So those 3, have had a pretty good run of things so far with the predictions. And before we go into the features, get yours in, get your predictions in. There's, like I said, only about 20 people a week do them. There are some people sitting in like 10th place who have only done 1 week of predictions. So, get your predictions in and you can jump up the rankings very, very quickly. There's
After some of these predictions from me, until
definitely,
map 5 goes,
you
you
guys
might be seeing
can't
me in
let
the top
Polar
of the
be
charts.
beating
Please,
you.
man.
You can't let Polar beat you.
Make sure you get those in.
There's also like some people who only predict like their tier, so it's like there's definitely margin to rise up in the rankings. Looking at our features though for this week, on Tuesday at 9 CET or 3 EST, we have the Harmony EU feature of Hivemind versus the Hope Guardians. On Tuesday at 9 EST, we have the NA Harmony feature match, Obfuscation versus Narwhal Con X. On Wednesday, we have Trance feature, again at 9 EST, Arctic Foxes versus Frostfisher, match we talked about very in depth, so, make sure to look at that match. I think that one is going to be very good. On Thursday at 9 CET or 3 EST, we have the Discord EU feature of Paid to Win versus Cam. And finally, at 9 EST on Thursday, we have the Discord NA feature of Loki versus Deep Dish. Again, another one that we talked about very in depth, and a match that I think is going to be very good. So before we close things out, Polar, Seraph, any final words?
Crab Nation, baby.
Crab Nation. I'm rooting for the Crabbers now. I wanna see the Crab Nation rise.
I want to put them in the pot.
Yeah. But thank you guys all so much for watching. Polar and Seraph, thank you guys so much for joining me this week. Big week of matches. So yeah, we'll see you guys all next week. Same time, same place. Later.